The floor is yours, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Suzanne. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first meeting of the Planning and Regulatory Committee for 2022. And I'm sure you will all have noted that the date today is the 2nd of the 2nd, 22. So very, very significant. So we're recording the meeting due to COVID-19 red setting. This meeting is being held by audio-visual conferencing, and all members participating via video conference will count for the purpose of the meeting forum in accordance with clause 25B of Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act 2002. The meeting is being live streamed to Council's YouTube channel. A1 on the agenda is apologies. Do we have any apologies for today? No. Fantastic, that's great. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest?
No.
No, lovely. And we've got no public participation, so there will be no actions from the public participations. Does anybody have any extraordinary business that they want to add to the agenda? No. Fantastic, look at that. We're up to A6 already in a minute and a half. So can we have A6? So we've got the, we're considering the minutes from the 3rd of November 2021. Are there any corrections needed to those minutes? Does anybody pick anything up?
No.
No, wonderful. Do we have a mover that the minutes of the Planning and Regulatory Committee meeting held on the 3rd of November is a true and correct record? Thank you, Alex. We have a seconder. Thank you, Lee. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
Just a minute, Pam. I believe that we actually may have tendered our conflicts of interest for the bylaw. I'm just wondering whether it was...
Oh. I think that
because I know that Alistair's got his in there, but yeah.
But I think they I think that it was moved that it wasn't declared as a, oh, Suzanne, can you answer that for me, please?
Just looking at the minutes, these were the minutes of the meeting, not the actual bylaw.
Yeah, but I think we discussed the bylaw at the meeting, didn't we?
Yeah.
Just whether there was a conflict of interest declared, and there's a little secretary note to the side explaining the situation there.
Mm. I had a feeling it wasn't deemed a conflict.
It was. You're right. It wasn't deemed.
It wasn't. It wasn't deemed. Yeah.
But it was not. It's not noted in the meeting minutes either.
Mm.
Perhaps we could do an amendment to say subject to review of Councillor West's comments regarding a potential conflict of interest.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm. Okay.
Okay. So, Sarah, can I be clear? Who are we saying the conflict of interest is for? Because we've got a note from Alistair.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that what Councillor West is getting at is that both her and myself also mentioned that there was a perceived conflict of interest when discussing that topic, because we both hold bar managers licenses.
Well, yeah, no, you hold the bar managers and I work at Hospo, so yeah.
Okay, I'll check the video record for that.
Lovely, thank you, Suzanne. So is Alex, are you and Lee happy to move it subject to those? Lovely. Yep. So can we just have a show of hands for all those in favour again, just so I can get it, and that's me included. Thank you. So carried. Cool. So we have our decision reports. So we're up to B1, which is the proposed joint review approach for Wairarapa Rangatahi strategy. Do we have a mover to receive that report, please? Thank you, Rebecca. And seconder, please. Brenda, thank you. All those in favour? Lovely, thank you. Now, Russell, do you want to talk to that, or would you like Siv to talk to that, please? Or Stefan wants to say something? Yep. Sorry, Stefan.
Stefan can talk to it. I'll let him speak because it's a good straightforward report.
Lovely, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year for this first meeting of the year. We're very pleased to have this paper in front of you, which asks you to endorse the review approach to this rangatahi strategy. I'm sure you've read through the paper, but just to briefly outline the main decisions that are sort of required of us today. As I said, we're asking for an endorsement of the review approach. This is a strategy that has already been the review approach has already been endorsed by Masterton District Council and Carston District Council in exactly the same form as it is in front of you today. So we're just trying to now align ourselves with an approach that's going to be taken regionally, which is quite exciting. This is an opportunity to draw a strategy together that gives us a strategic approach to all the youth work that we're doing, and really put a lens on youth issues for the region moving forward. The idea is that we would on a kind of best efforts basis, try and confirm a strategy by September, and you would start to see early wins or early implementation effort coming through by the end of the year. I say best efforts because obviously we're in tumultuous times and no one can really predict the impact of COVID on this. It does require community consultation, and so there may be slowdown depending on the impact of the Omicron wave and any other unforeseen impact of COVID. But if we get this right, it's a chance for us to bring all of our youth work together. So anything that we're doing in terms of our infrastructural strategy and our community development work, anything in shared services, all of that would come under the umbrella of this strategy and would be counted and would be seen to be being delivered in a strategic and planned way. So, you know, we're quite excited by the rangatahi strategy. It fits nicely within the proposed community development framework. It sits nicely with the four wellbeings, and it's a nice fit with the strategic objectives of not only the South Wairarapa District Council but other councils in the region. So you know, I won't go on anymore. We're very happy to answer questions and receive your feedback on the paper. Thank you.
Yes. Colin, you've got your hand up. You wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, thanks. I've learned how to operate that little thing now. It's quite useful. Stephen, just in terms of the umbrella group that's actually overseeing this whole youth strategy, the umbrella group is made up of representatives from the three different councils, is that correct?
Yes, that's right, Councillor. The Wairarapa Working Policy Group is made up of people from all three councils and would be responsible for supporting the review and then coming back and making recommendations to you once we made progress.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Brenda.
Hi, Stephen. Just a couple of questions. How much money are you asking for to participate in this, and where's the money coming from?
Yeah, no, good question. Thank you, Councillor. There isn't a budget request being made of you today because the money that's required for this is already in our operating budget. It's not very much, I must say. We're sort of committed to spending up to $8,000, I think it is, from our operating budget, and that is in line with the split between councils under the shared services agreement. So we're not asking for additional money. We are trying to scrape some money together in future years in order to implement the policy. Because we'll want to operationalise it. We'll want to do some things underneath the policy that will cost money, but at the moment it's within OPEX.
Cool, excellent. Thank you, Stephen.
Cool. Thank you. Rebecca, I can see you're there, but Lee had her hand up first, so Lee.
Thank you, Pam. Happy New Year, Stefan. Just a question. I'd like to see some thought given to how we can target children in the rural areas, because I think going on past experience, they can be quite difficult to connect up with. Is that something you think you might consider or you've thought about, or is that something for the future?
No, the needs of children in rural areas and connected to that, the needs of Māori youth in isolated or rural areas is something that we are conscious of, and it would be something that was included in the focus of the working groups, and those groups are vulnerable, as we all know, because often feel the brunt of poverty issues, unemployment. There are significant mental health issues that are experienced by youth in those areas. Not exclusively, but often there are particular factors that make it very difficult to access them. So yes, Councillor, we are mindful of that, and that would be part of the focus of the review.
Great, thanks, Stephen. Just a comment going further on to the Climate Change Commission visit, and there's comments from children there, quite a range of children, and they're very engaged, and I think there's an opportunity to tap into those different groups, and they actually have some good ideas. So
yeah, look, I agree with you, and I think the climate change issue, for me, that really is captured underneath this idea of youth voice and youth representation. And we've seen internationally this movement amongst youth asking us, old people, hope you don't mind.
You're younger than me, Stefan.
They're asking us to take responsibility and to listen and empathise and understand what's happening. And I think in the Wairarapa, there's an opportunity through the existing youth group and youth council to improve that and to allow that voice to be heard properly. So that is definitely one aspect of implementation that we really care about. So yeah, definitely agree with you there.
Great, thanks, Stefan.
Lovely, thanks, Lee. Rebecca.
Thanks, Pam. It's a fantastic report, and I just want to echo, it was really refreshing reading some of the comments from our young rangatahi. Very encouraging that they are engaged and and want to have participation within civic matters, because they're our future, aren't they? So it's really important that we kind of keep that dialogue going. I do have some questions though, and they kind of run towards, I've spent years working in public health, but a number of initiatives are rolled through in groups, but there's never any continuity with projects that are set up. And what I'm really keen to see come out of this is projects or engagements where there's a level of continuity. I think that's one of the things I'm really keen to see come out of this. And I'm really interested to know how we're currently engaging with, for example, our youth that are on our community boards. We've already got youth representation there, so we've got engagement at that level, how we work those networks and have those really engaged rangatahi out there. And has our Māori Standing Committee for our council actually been engaged in this draft document to start with? Because it feels to me like reading the document that we're going to consult after as opposed to consult alongside with. So I'm just keen to pursue those ideas, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Look, on the issue of continuity, we share your desire to have projects that are both meaningful and endure. And our hope is that if we have a strategy that weds all of the three councils together on this issue for the first time, and we fund it and endorse it properly, then that is what would happen. We will be able to focus our efforts, and we'll have projects that have an impact and that will carry over for the a number of years and be seen to their conclusion, and we'll be able to measure the impact of those projects. That's sort of getting ahead of ourselves, because at the moment we're reviewing an approach to a strategy, but that's definitely where we hope we're heading. And youth on community boards, there is a strong desire on the part of youth. We've heard it very clearly to be more involved in political machinery and to be heard, and they believe they have a voice on the issues of the day, and that they should be contributing and that they should be participating. We definitely need to offer any opportunity we can to make that happen, and the community boards is one area where we've already been active. And so when I say, so this strategy would offer an umbrella under which all of those things are located and joined up, and we can look for the synergies between the different initiatives that we've got in each of the areas that we're concentrating on, including political representation. So I think we've made a good start on community boards, but there's much more that we should be doing into council committees and council, and also beyond that, looking for opportunities for people to really feel as if they're shaping their own future instead of having it done to them. The Māori Standing Committee, I'm not sure. Steve, have we reached out to the Māori Standing Committee or had any engagement with members up until now? If not, we certainly will pursue that straight away.
Kia ora koutou, everyone, Mayor Alex and councillors and Madam Chair. Thank you for that question, Councillor Fox. I think we haven't formally presented to the Māori Standing Committee, but we've had some informal conversations, and also in regards to the youth representatives on the community boards, for example. So both the Māori Standing Committee and those youth representatives are part of our list of stakeholders that we are going out to engage with if this project is supported. Excellent. Okay, cool. Thank you. That's good.
Yeah, I should have noted. That Steve has led this project for us, and I just want to acknowledge the work that has gone into it from her up until now. It has been quite an effort, and I'm really happy to have had Steve bring it to this point. And so just wanted to acknowledge the work that's been done by her basically on her own up until now. I mean, the Māori issue is we're in a post-settlement environment now where I assume we're going to have a lot more active and we're going to have iwi and settlement groups pursuing their objectives in the region more aggressively, and we need to line up with that and being part of the conversation about where Māori youth are going and how we tackle the issues that confront Māori youth in our region. That's certainly part of that partnership and good treaty partner conversation that we need to be having. So I'm hoping that this is part of that and contributes to that.
Excellent. That's very encouraging to hear. Thank you. And thank you very much, Steve, as well.
Thank you, Rebecca. Mary Alex.
Yeah, thank you. As usual, Councillor Fox has stolen my thunder with a number of the questions there. The one thing I comment, Steve, is, and Stefan, is if we can have someone who's involved in the governance review also being involved in this, because they are inextricably linked when it comes to the strategy being implemented within the South Wairarapa governance. But also if we could make an emphasis on education within the schools with regards to civic governance, that's the entry point into realization and understanding of their ability to be involved. And so just as a comment on that, but thank you, really, really important to have underway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will take that back.
Can I just ask one question of both you and Siv, please? Stefan, I missed the councils are going to work together. Are the councillors being involved in that, or is it just the officers of the council?
At the moment, as the process as I understand it, and Steve, please jump in if I get any of this wrong. As I understand it, these have been through the council of CDC and MDC. So councillors in those councils are 100% on board and have endorsed the review approach, and now they will be waiting for us to report back to them on with recommendations. And this today, what we're trying to do is put South Wairarapa in the same place as them.
Okay, thank you. Steve, yeah.
Thank you. I could just add to that so there is a team of officers in community development across the different councils that are working together to create the survey and do the operational stuff on the ground. And then when we have engaged with the youth, then we will take information from that and other sources, such as other regional and national policies on youth, and we'll have the Wairarapa the policy working group provide advice back to councils. Okay,
so on South Wairarapa's policy working group, that would be Councillor Eames and Councillor Plummer, is that correct? Because they're the two councillors on that policy working group.
I haven't checked who those councillors are, I'm afraid. There's someone else. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Lovely, thank you both. Yeah. Right, does anybody else have any other questions or anything? So if everyone's happy, should we take recommendations 2 to 6 as one motion? Is everyone happy with that? Could we have a mover for that, please? Colin's moving. Rebecca, you're seconding. Thank you very much. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Fantastic, carried. Lovely, well done. Lots of work ahead, but lovely, thank you. So item C2 on the reports, we've got the Planning and Environmental Group report. Sorry, C1, I should say. Gone too far in one. And do we have a mover to receive the Planning and Environmental Group report, please? Thank you, Alex and Lee. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Great, carried. Thank you. Russell, did you want to talk to your report, please?
Thank you. Morning, councillors. Here's to a good 2022 that we've got our heads in already, and I'll take you through quickly through topics and answer any questions that you have along the way. So in terms of, so we didn't have the December meeting, so my update is essentially as that from then. Across building and planning, numbers of applications coming in are still high, particularly in building, which is good for good as a symbol of growth coming at us for the district and the different towns, and also for revenue coming into the council. Timely, robust decision making and timely consenting's happening in that space, as is necessary site inspections for the field associated field work. Environmental services rolls on as it is with the processing of liquor license, environmental food licenses, and responding to bylaw and dog issues in stock. Just in terms of some of the topics within the summary report, we've got the district plan review, which will again get its momentum this year with the first meeting of the Wairarapa Combined District Plan Review Committee happening on Thursday, the 24th of February. So councillors and staff will sit in Carterton and receive updates on issue topics and chapter topics covering elements of the district plan and where BOF's best advice is at this time, and including input and question response from officers who will be there. So that's rolling on. It's a significant piece of work. Having to review a district plan, which you have to do every 10 years. So we're in the middle of it, hoping to get a draft out this year, but timing around that will be reliant on getting agreement and position points on the different chapters and headings. For the, I'll talk later on the spatial plan and master plan work that's kicked off, but just in terms of the proposed combined dog pound, you see the update there. We're still actively trying to find a solution, local solution, one that's cost effective, one that's innovative and meets our needs without overcooking it in terms of size, and being mindful of cost, and providing a new pound facility that meets those very current requirements of dog welfare requirements. We're mindful of the budget. Rick has been out on site visits. He has been undertaking those with Mayor Alex, looking as part of the problem solving and bringing a site forward in terms of potential solution for location. So I might at this point get Rick to jump in and give an update, or unless you want to lead off with particular questions on the topic. We've also recently given Councillor Olds an update in terms of the background to bring him up to speed of past components within this journey to get a modern functioning pound for our needs.
Welcome, Rick. Thank you.
Sorry. As you're aware, we've been looking at a modular system and concept, which is, we believe, very innovative and modern. We have had a meeting with the MPI inspector prior to Christmas in regards to what we were doing and an update for them. And part of that discussion was to explain the concept and design of where we were going for South Wairarapa. And he was very impressed and took heart that we were taking this serious, that we'd come up with all the concepts that fulfill their needs. So we asked him to punch holes into our concept, and he came up with one very, very minor suggestion, which we've taken on board, which was just a disease management mats as people enter, so your shoes get cleaned, much like Doc has to around the place on their various things. So that was very heartening. I think Russell and I took a lot of comfort that we were on the right track. As been suggested, we have, given the situation with Johnson Street, we have looked at other avenues in terms of trying to locate this pound. We've, with His Worship, went out and visited the former golf course in Featherston and looked at various options there. The initial site had pros and cons. It was located in where water, power, septic was very close, which reduced costs for us in that way. The cons of it was the location also raised issues in regards to potential resource consent, and the fact that the paper road may cause us issues in regards to noise from the dogs. So we've also looked at a secondary site, which is, if you're facing in the car park, is to the left past the old groundskeepers building, and that geographically suits the planners and mitigates a lot of their queries. It raises other issues for us in regards to power, water, and septic. However, we've looked into these. We don't believe these obstacles are insurmountable. So we've looked at tank water. We can do that. His Worship put me onto a individual who was a specialist in terms of solar power. So we were looking, investigating how that would work. Had a good 2-hour discussion with the managing director of that entity, who enlightened me way more than I think I ever needed, but it was a really excellent discussion in terms of how we could use this technology to come into it as well, and agreement, and that's further discussion we'll look at as well. So that's the secondary site. We, as Russell mentioned earlier, we had a discussion with Councillor Olds, and through that discussion, we've looked at re-engaging with Carterton on a possible scenario that may work for both councils, but I've got to just work the numbers. It's actually to nail down exactly where that goes. So that's a sort of a backup option if we were struggled to get the land that we're looking at. It does have some issues in terms of it's under a lease agreement, and there's some other concerns around it that we just need to clarify as well. Other than that, that's sort of the best update I could sort of give. So any questions, happy to answer.
Cool. Mary Alex.
Thank you. Rick, I know that Johnson Street was an option that was taken off by the owner of Earthcare. Have we revisited that option given that there are new owners now?
No, I haven't re-engaged in that. It's, yeah, like I say, if we were to get what was proposed before, we hit the marks financially. We hit the marks with all we need as a requirement. I suppose the cautionary part of me would say, what is the long-term ideology that council wants for that piece of land? And if in 10 years' time we rezoned residential or something, that may have an impact. However, it's existing, so there's no resource consent. So all we're doing is replacing like for like, just a larger size. So that would be something we'd have to look at as well. The former golf course area provides us a nice buffer zone for expansion. Should any decision down the track mean that we become a bigger centre for welfare or other councils' needs or anything, we can build this modular system to increase those numbers to do that. And with the amount of space we've got, means we're not restricted in what we'd need to do.
Thank you. I think if I could also comment, the more alternative uses along with Patumokai we have for that site removes it from a water asset purview and makes it less likely to be taken by government than Three Waters, just as a safeguard. So I just comment on that to other councillors. So.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for that answer, Rick. Colin, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Rick and Russell, for the bit of an update and the conversation yesterday. And Rick, I'm quite excited about the modular system. It certainly sounds like it would tick all the boxes in terms of meeting MPI requirements here. I'm also pleased that you're exploring all the options, because this is a long-term solution. This is an investment that's going to take us out probably for the next 30 or 40 years. So the modular system, to me, is transportable and could be moved, obviously, to a different location in the future. So I really just wanted to make the comment that thanks for taking the time yesterday and having the conversation, because it certainly cleared a lot of things up for me. Yes.
Lovely, thank you. Russell, did you want to? Thank you, Rick. It's great. Good to see progress being made. Russell, did you want to continue with your report?
Russell, you're on mute. Laughing with you.
Sorry about that. Two other updates for councillors for as part of fuller information. In terms of the current resource consent we have before us, the application for aggregate storage and crushing in Underhill Road, Featherstone, that is in the hands of a consultant, which is on the basis of neutrality, and whereby we put things to a consultant just so that it is clearly seen that the matter is assessed, decision is assessed independently and thoroughly. So final information has been provided from the applicant to the consultant, along with we took some time to get a legal opinion on activities under the district plan and got that legal opinion and passed that on to the consultant as part of the processing as well. Accordingly, the consultant has factored that into the processing, and an assessment has been made on the notification component. Remember that as part of a resource consent, it comes in two parts. There's the notification of potentially affected parties and looking at the effects, and then there's the summative final decision on a consent as to whether it should be granted or not. So we've received back the notification assessment. Our own officers are looking at that currently, and James, our planning manager, James Witham, tells me that that assessment is being undertaken at the moment. So that's as much information as I have in terms of that particular resource consent, which I know that the community are active in that space in terms of wanting to see a good result, and we incur some inquiry in respect of what's happening with the application. So that's my information to you councillors on that topic.
Russell, could I just interrupt you there? I think Mayor Alex has got a question.
It's not specific to the quarry thing, so you can carry on if you want, and I can then pose my question at the end.
All right, thank you. Lee, Councillor Lee, hey, did you have one specific to the quarry?
I've got some just general questions regarding aspects of the report, so I can wait until you finish, Russell,
Okay.
and then ask my questions if that suits.
Lovely, thank you both. Sorry,
Thank you.
Russell.
That's all right. Thank you for that. The other aspect is to bring you up to speed with and make the connection on all the good work that we've done for the spatial plan, which was finalised and released at the end of last year. So that was a 30-year focus, spatial plan with a 30-year focus, setting our future across the towns, with its key focus on residential growth. And to bring the spatial plan alive, we've got the supportive components, or the implementational aspects of master planning where necessary. So we know that we need to do the master plan for Featherston this year. So that's a project is aimed to be investigated, drafted, and finalised over this year. Consultant involved is Ree Anderson and Richard Knott. So they have, Ree has compiled background information as the starting base for the master plan. So that background information has been pulled together, and she's got her head together in that space. So I've seen that. The next component is the site visits and familiarisation for the consultants to get a feel for the place and actually undertake a walking tour of the town, noting that Featherston's seen as a growth node for potential development, residential housing from the train station. So walking site visits were undertaken yesterday, actually, as part of the initial work for the Featherston master plan. Other things as elements of success for the master plan will be good engagement with both the community and stakeholders. So on 22nd of February, we seek to at the Featherston Community Board, we'll have myself and the consultants will be there to take the community board through the master plan and where it's up to. But combined to that and using the day of the 22nd of Feb is having engagement meetings with reps from Greater Wellington Regional Council, Kim Kelly who's led out the Greater Wellington Regional Growth Framework, which Featherston sits under that as a growth node under that, and for us as a district. And then we also have used that day for engagement with reps from Waka Kotahi as well. And Ree mentioned to me last night that she's had most recent discussions with Narita from Maori Standing Committee. Good informal discussion there, and she's had an informed discussion with Adrienne Young-Cooper, the new chair of WEDS, and has got her input or issue points captured. So the master plan for Featherston has kicked off. It's building up a knowledge base and building up those links with necessary stakeholders. And so our next component is to have those engagement meetings on the 22nd that I've outlined, and have the consultants will be there for the community board meeting in the evening on the 22nd. Also update the councillors on the aspect of when you do your spatial plan, you've got to have your other supporting elements, bringing it to life. Implementational support aspects are over this year. We know we need to produce a structure plan or master plan for the Martinborough outer residential area, formerly known as Martinborough South. So that's the outer residential large lots. So structure plan has to be compiled for that. Realising that the success of that will also depend on good consultation with stakeholders and a collaborative approach to develop a potential layout or structure plan, not just layout, but also servicing issues and provisioning to bring the MA area, the Martinborough outer residential area, to life as a plan forward for it. And then we've also got councillors will recall that we had the Ferry Road corner in Martinborough, which is the MF area, and James and I have been having discussions with landowners there and a consultant representative from the landowners themselves as to what their aspirations for development in that area. And we've clearly signalled as to the Ferry Road corner site, which was set aside for more medium density for the town, that we want an integrated solution there whereby the council can work with what is proposed to us. So we're mindful of costs, that we don't want to undertake that and incur the cost, because if a developer has has clear intention for developing there, then they'd come up with their best plan and work with us. So we've clearly signalled that as an approach for the Ferry Road MF area. And the only other thing in terms of the implementation aspects of the spatial plan are, for this year, we also have the action of getting out and bringing to life again engagement at marae level across the maraes that we started last year as part of the spatial plan. So we need to reactivate that and explore the aspirations of each marae and hear what they are, and also have our ears open to the prospect of papakainga housing and what and when is in that space in terms of aspiration. So I've just tried to paint a picture of the implementation elements now that are happening or will happen over this year for the spatial plan.
Cool. Thank you, Russell. Anything else you want to elaborate on, or you can take the rest as read?
Just take the rest as read and respond to any questions the councillors may have.
Okay, that's great. Well, Mayor Alex, you're first in the line for questions.
Thank you. Russell, I'm looking at the consents graph that you have, and it looks relatively manageable, but I have heard that we're looking at an extensive amount of business expected to be coming through. Do we have the capability within the planning department to actually cope with what you predict will be happening over the next 12 months?
Thank you for the question, Alex. I think we do. James and I are always discussing work volume and flow, and if things are particularly tight, or if there's neutrality needed through giving an application to a consultant, we'll choose that route. But historically, we've always been pretty good on timeliness, both sound decision making and timely decision making, despite the numbers coming in. But if it was to become an issue, we would signal that we would have necessary discussions. But we believe we're in a reasonable space at the moment.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Councillor Hay.
Hi there. Thanks very much, Russell, for a comprehensive report. I've just got some random questions in no particular order. This is probably Rick. Are you still here? Yes, you are. I was pleased to see you only had, it looked like just one notice being sent out about the mowing of the berms. I was quite surprised how low it is. So obviously that's working well in your view?
I think it's the compromise that we've come down to in terms of notifying an issue and the resources that we have, noting that that report's over the Christmas time, and our general focus is on the coastal and animal control. So that generally, once it gets a bit quieter, we tend to look at the berms and the vegetation in that.
Good, but interestingly enough, one of the worst offenders in Greytown, his lawns are the tidiest I've seen in about 9 years, so something's working. This is just a question for Russell regarding the district plan. So I believe that the last time the development contribution was 2013. And is there any opportunity to increase the development contribution separate or prior to the district plan coming in, the new district plan coming into force? Because it just seems that there's, huge growth going on in South Wairarapa, and the contribution is extremely out of date, shall we say? Is that something you've looked at?
Thank you, Councillor Hay. It's a very good question, and it touches upon the thinking that's going into the district plan at the moment. So your question signals an important issue for us, and we know that the financial contribution levels are low and dated. Other councils have got it on their radar for addressing. It throws up I just mentioned to you that it throws up the topic of whether we continue down a financial contribution route or a development contribution route, which is involves a lot more work in terms of establishing and justifying the cost associated, infrastructure costs associated with growth. So at the moment we have financial contributions, which are a simpler approach, but that was the decision taken way back. So your question signals a key one that needs to be answered amid the Wairarapa Combined District Plan Review Committee. But I think there is potential to bring that a key topic forward and give it some action if the need is high. And I think you've highlighted one such topic in that question. Yeah.
Thanks, Russell. So just to clarify, is there any ability with a bylaw or something like that for us to bring it forward earlier if Carterton and Masterton don't wish to do that?
Well, that topic has been looked at in part in terms of that question, but it is something that we need to get confirmation on, and I can re-raise that topic and get clarification from David McMahon, who's the independent chair for the review. But I think there is scope to take that approach of bringing key topics forward and getting those drafts out and activating the topic.
Thank you, Russell. Harry, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just to be clear, that it's not a bylaw review. So the process that was brought forward, it will still constitute a change to the district plan. So that is a separate process. But look, we have been doing some work about some of the other costs that we're not collecting as part of growth, as part of the budget discussions, which will be starting on the workshop. So we've got some good news for you at our next workshop on some of the costs of growth around water and roading connections, on ways that we may be able to recover those that don't require a change to the financial contributions. So we've been doing some work on that as well.
Okay.
So two prongs. Yep.
I'm sorry, I've got one other question for you, Russell, regarding the district plan. I was looking at or noted that you're doing work on signage across the district. It's something I feel very hot about, and I would not like to see the signage that we see in districts like Kapiti. And South Wairarapa did quite a lot of good work in reducing the signage, so it actually adhered to the bylaws that were in place, whereas Carterton and Masterton seem to be more relaxed about that. And I see it as visual pollution, and it reduces the prettiness and attractiveness of the countryside. So just if you could take my views on that on board, I'd be most grateful. Because if you look at places like Kapiti, it just looks so ugly with all those hideous signs everywhere, often unrelated to the site. Because I believe our law is that the sign must be on the site where the business is being conducted. So
thanks, Councillor Hay. That's another good question, because you pointed out that in the mix of topics there'll be a range of views of let's have more control. I know we don't want to be too draconian or onerous and have the new plan overly controlling. So we've got to find a position on that. And generally within the signs topic itself under a district plan, you've got issues of cumulative effect through the proliferation of so many signs. You've got control measures through limiting the size of a sign and its location, and whether you can have signs unrelated to a particular site. And also you've got size limits as well. So it's a topic that we need to find a final position on. I would say at this point we're giving it it's got a medium level of focus at the moment. If I was giving you a signal back as to how it's being looked at.
Okay, thanks, Russell. Harry, you wanted to?
Yeah, I just wanted to add. Actually, the present controls actually aren't too bad because we've had to enforce them. You recall last year, sort of about midway through the year, some of the work we did to clean up some of the property brokers and different companies that were advertising outside of the plan. So we actually do have one. But the other comment I really want to make was also signage is important from a traffic management perspective and safety, as they're not just clutter, they're also dangerous in terms of distraction. So again, that's a really good reason why we'd want to keep our footpaths clear and also minimise the impact for drivers so they're not distracted.
Okay.
No, thanks, Harry. I mean, I think we're doing a great job with our signage up by Wairarapa. It would good to see our approach extended to the rest of Wairarapa. So thank you, Russell. Thank you for your answers. Most appreciated.
Lovely, Lee. Thank you. Brenda, Councillor West.
Great, thank you. Russell, I know that the report is only reporting a date range for the 1st December through to the 31st December. My concern is that we're not actually seeing the data from the 1st of October 2021 to the 31st of November 2021. We as councillors can actually go to Stella and actually have a look at that information, but it's not available to the public. So what steps are we going to take to ensure that that information is incorporated in our next report?
Well, I'll take that point, note that point, but the basis of what we have in the report is we've moved to having more trend information in the reports as part of updating it, making it giving wider context. So and the current report goes to up to December.
December the 31st. But I mean, trend reporting is great if you're a trend reporter, but you're not seeing the numbers, the actual numbers between the 1st of October and the 31st of November 2021.
Okay.
The figures aren't available, the actual numbers. The line graphs are, and that's great, but the actual numbers aren't.
Yep. I'll check that with Terry, our administrator, and I can come back to you on that.
Yep. Thank you.
That'd be great. Any more questions, Brenda? Okay, Rebecca, please, Councillor Fox.
Thank you. I only have a couple of short questions, actually, and they relate to Russell may be able to answer these, or Rick may be able to answer. Firstly, one of them was around the fly tipping. There haven't been a lot of fly tipping episodes, which is good and encouraging. So people are using the facilities that are there. But I'm just wondering, could you please explain what an information was to whoever this person was that was identified as part of the fly tipping? And does council look at enforcement action in that regard? Is it necessary?
I'll take this one for you, Russell. So fly tipping is a jargon word from Britain that people have grabbed hold of. It's basically illegal dumping of rubbish within our district. We get notified of illegal dumping throughout the district, and my bylaws officers go and pick it up. What we try and do is, if it's easier if it's domestic rubbish or something, and they've put a receipt or something in there, some identifying factor that we can do. We can then, what we do is, if we find an identifying piece of evidence, we will write to that person and say, on such and such date, we have evidence that your name is linked to this rubbish. Can you explain? And we have had circumstances where people have said that they have simply no idea how their name got associated with it, how their rubbish got included with it. And therefore it becomes, because we're not there to see them, an evidential basis is very hard for us to progress that further. Historically, fly tipping has probably got a strike rate of 1 in about 1,000. And it's, so we do follow a process to try and identify people, and we follow through as much as we can. Unfortunately, the region at the moment is seeing used tyres being dumped in various areas. While we can look at those, trying to find an identifying factor is simply unattainable for us. So yes, it's an ongoing problem, and it's one across the nation that's happening. But where we do, we follow up. But the strike rate's not great because of evidential basis to try and progress that through to us, we were to take a prosecution or issue an infringement notice. But what we do is we just notify people, put them on warning that we know, and that we'll keep a lookout in those areas. We've tried to put signage up, and it's big, clear signage that this is not a dumping area, which tends to leave the impression that we are noticing where they are, and then people have sort of moved on. We're hoping the trend is on a downward spiral, but I can't confirm that. So we'll just keep being proactive when we get notified to see where it is, pick it up, clear it as soon as we can. A bit like graffiti. If it's left there for a while, they get the ego boost that their name's visible to those that pass by. It also if we remove it quickly, then it's not an attractant for others to see it as a dumping ground. I'm sorry, I hope that answers the question.
Oh, it has. I guess, you know, there's all sorts of different things that relate to fly tipping, and we've had examples of there being, you know, concrete waste from building sites and stuff being dumped. And I guess really what I want to understand is where we can find the people that we're actually able to, but also, and you've answered it as a second part, is promoting a message in the community that's just not acceptable, because it's a cost overall to the community. It's an environmental and a public health hazard, and yeah, it just really isn't something which people should tolerate. So no, you've answered that. I do have one other question, and it relates to the particularly to, it shouldn't come as any surprise to me asking this, but particularly to the numbers of premises that were followed up as part of their food control plans and the food inspections. There's a 25% inspection rate. Now, I know we have had COVID last year, but I'm just really interested as to why we've only got 25% and what are the actual numbers, because we've lost 4 premises, but there's still 25% or 75%, you know, what's going on?
Yep, so good spotting. What's happened is under the Food Act, there's been a change in how the verifications are done. So they're done on a not an annual basis, so you don't get a consistent 12-month verification period. It extends out to 18 months. And so there's, we've seen a time lag over our November, December period. And we've got a pickup come February, March, April of where there's an increase of those verifications because of the dates that they land on. December's notoriously hard to get hold of people for the Christmas period as well. So that the figure of completed verifications looks low, but it's on schedule for what we've got over the whole year. So the snapshot of the whole year. And as you'll see coming forward, the reports will show that increase. So that is one of the anomalies that's the Food Act's now chucked out, is that it's not a consistent 12-month basis. And you'll see the total number of food premises for verifications is at 88 for this 12-month period, as opposed to last year it was 108. It's the timing of what it is. So the fluctuation in a 12-month period is going to continue because you got extensions of 18 months and therefore where they fall. And then there's the plus and minuses in terms of businesses that enter or exit the industry as well.
For sure. I think what would be helpful, because there will be people that are not watching this on Zoom, is that if we actually report that a little bit differently going forward, so that rather than it's maybe just reported as a percentage, it's reported as a number across a continuum, and then people can actually see the statistics that sit behind that, and then just a little bit of internal commentary in the report that gives a bit more detail around that. It makes complete sense to me, what you've just said. But I think, you know, it would be helpful just to maybe think about crafting that message a bit differently later. But I'm pleased that we're on track because the provision of safe food to our region is of critical importance to our community and our council.
Yeah,
thanks, Rick.
That's all right, and it is exactly that. And I think food especially extends beyond just the food premises. It's also the events that we deal with as well. Yes. And if we get it wrong, the impact on the community and reputation of our area is massive. But I'm really pleased with the EHOs that we have, that they're well skilled, well versed in being customer centric. And they're doing an excellent job, and I feel really comfortable in terms of we're not only meeting but exceeding what we should be doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Fox, for that prompt and suggestion, because it does help clarify the picture and as Rick has said, the associated fluctuations and variability, and as to when a premises sets up or when it has its first initial visit. So thank you for that reminder and the importance of ongoing public safety in the food space.
Lovely, thank you. Councillor West, Brenda.
Hi, sorry, there was one other question that I would like to ask of Russell. With a development contribution, I've asked this in the past with regards to how many subdivisions can be made on a property before development contributions are collected. But at what stage would oversight be given to ensure where ongoing subdivisions are created bit by bit and who are avoiding this development contribution, therefore leaving council to cover potential costs? When do these subdivisions kind of like get an overview to ensure that that's not happening?
So the current financial contributions apply when a subdivision is undertaken. So, and the financial contributions for roading reserves are applied as part of the subdivision decision. So there's a capture point for each, with each resource consent subdivision transaction and decision we do. So I'm probably not answering your question fully. So if you wanted to articulate some more.
Probably best if I articulate through email. I'll pop you an email with something that I found out. But yeah, it's just that, you know, these development contributions help us to be able to enable us to provide the services that we're meant to be providing. But if people are evading that, it's a bit unfair and flies in the face of other developers.
Yeah, exactly right. So if you send me an email and James or I can respond and give you some further information so that we're addressing the issue.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. Rick, did you want to say anything else?
If I could just have the indulgence, and I apologise to Russell, I should have let him know on this as well. Just a couple of updates on a couple of topics I think councillors and this committee would find interesting. One is in regards to an update, and I can't remember if it was this forum or the wider council forum, in regards to the guide dog assistance and information we were looking at going out to the communities with. I've reached out to a multitude of different agencies who are more experts in this area than I, and disappointingly, haven't received much feedback or correspondence. So what my team will do is we'll look at creating our own sort of information package to spread the word of what's needed, what the law is, how we as a organisation encourage the communities to engage and be positive with those that have guide dogs or assisted dogs or service dogs. And we're looking at creating a different sort of pamphlet letter type scenario, but also I'm sort of trying to be as innovative or practical as possible and looking at whether we can instigate signs and sticker friendly. So a business could turn around and say, we welcome, you know, the guide dogs and that, so that it gives comfort for different people that sort of need that help. That was just an update. I'm not quite sure if it was this forum or the wider community, but I know a couple of the members of this committee would be very interested in that. And the other thing is, just in regards to trade waste, is an area that my team took on probably 12, 14 months ago to do an analysis of what we've got out there. And a trend that we are seeing is that we're finding issues in regards to our connections and infrastructure. And part of that is we've taken an extensive education process with the operators and how their passive grease traps need to be maintained, cleaned, so that it doesn't have that wider impact onto our waste treatment system or infrastructure. Part of that has raised what Wellington's found out for years, is that some of these buildings have been built so close that to do a passive grease trap exteriorly is being challenging at best. And therefore, what we've had to do with the building team is be engaging with these operators and owners of these buildings to actually understand why the requirement has come through. And we've sort of reached out to a few of the suppliers to understand whether they can do bespoke passive grease traps. But this sort of work has sort of gone on behind the scenes, and I just sort of it's especially for the regulatory part of the committee, is to understand that while you won't see the end result, if we get all the background stuff all on board and tickety-boo, then the results will come through on a multitude of different levels. It was just something I wanted to highlight in case you get comments from owners of buildings that all of a sudden we were instigating this compliance realm, to understand why we're doing it. And it's for not only just trade waste, but it's for the wider community as well, ensuring our infrastructure is maintainable in the future. So there's a couple of extra sort of points I wanted to add.
Lovely, thank you, Rick. Councillor Hay, you had
Sorry, thank you, Pam. Rick, great work you're doing in that space. And of interest, to Wellington Restaurant was fined the other day $3,500 for not allowing a guide dog in the premise. So I just had a small question for Russell regarding earthquake-prone buildings. So I noted there were 25. Is that spread evenly across the district, and is it residential or commercial, or is that a high figure in your view?
Or thanks, Councillor Hay. In terms of say looking at our district and that the challenge facing other districts, a relatively low number if you do a benchmark with other districts, but it's something that we can't lose sight of. We're slightly blessed by the fact that a lot of our heritage buildings are of a wooden construction, so we problem comes with brick construction and unreinforced nature of early buildings. I can't answer your question fully in terms of where those buildings are dispersed across the district. I'd have to check further before I gave you a full answer on it.
Okay, thank you, Russell.
Mayor Alex?
Yeah, a question for Rick that he, in the comment that he raised with regards to grease traps and older buildings, because I know it is a problem in heritage areas where you have got buildings that are built on the boundary line of a footpath. Are we collaborative with regards to possibly putting those sorts of services within the footpath area or on council property to allow the building to comply, or are we staunch with regards to having to have a very deviated access through to the wastewater system?
Very good question. We haven't looked at that in terms of going into council land or onto public footpaths at this stage. We've just noted that because through the hard work that Kyle and Phil previous to him has done in regards to finding our baseline of what we've got out there, is that some of the buildings are needing to install grease traps, or they've changed their use. So they've gone from a retail space to a restaurant or a bar, and are needing to put that in. So we're really scratching the surface. We haven't found much existing issues other than maintenance. So some people didn't realise they had a grease trap, and therefore had never cleaned it. And that's what we found is by the inspection and auditing monitoring system, we found those existing ones are good, and they have existing ones. The new ones that have changed the use that we're looking at, passive above ground options that can be built bespoke to a level which they can attach to either the building and put a planter box around so that it doesn't look hideous on a half metre sort of gap type scenario. So to answer your question, we haven't had the need to look at public ground or into footpaths, but we're definitely looking at the above ground option as opposed to requesting that they put in a 1,000 litre underground scenario.
Cool. Thank you. And my other question on the regulatory side is with regards to COVID and food premises through the district, and to what extent is the government requiring or expecting council involvement in enforcement or identification of problem areas at all? What's our role here?
Yeah, so if at the moment, MPI hasn't given us a directive, as they did under the level system, that if you're at level 3 or 4, it must be verification by remote. So the traffic light system still allows us to on-site stuff. If we get a complaint or an investigation that needs investigation, yes, council is a territory authority. MPI would contact the territory authority and expect an EHO to go out there and do it, or a food safety officer, and do the initial plan. We're lucky in that we've engaged very strongly with the regional cluster group of EHOs through Masterton, Wellington and Kapiti, and that we have expertise in terms of food safety officers and contacts with MPI to be able to pull on resources to sufficiently cover our region. But yes, the TA has a responsibility to undertake investigations in its area if there's a food outbreak.
No, I was thinking more about compliance with COVID laws that have been put in. Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't clear enough. Is this being done through WorkSafe, or do we have any role to play in it?
I think we have a role to play in terms of educating our operators. I think the enforcement action is with WorkSafe. WorkSafe are the enforcement agency that will go there. They may call on the TA to assist, but they'd be the lead agency.
A very good question given these times.
Madam Chair, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, there was some noise in the house behind me, so I muted myself. I was going to say thank you, Russell and Rick, for the update. That's really, really good. Now, I think we all move to, we have to be mindful of our time because there's another meeting after us. So we've got item C2 on the agenda, which is the climate change report. First of all, I would like, before we receive the report, I would like to welcome Amanda to our meeting. Lovely to have you on board, and maybe once we've approved the report, you might like to say a little bit about your background and let us get to know you a tad better. Sorry, it's not in person. We would rather have had this bit in person, but we are where we are. So thank you. So firstly, do we have a mover to receive the climate change report, please? Councillor Hay, Councillor West, thank you very much. All of those in favour, please raise your hand. Wonderful, thank you. So we have received, so that's great. So Amanda, if you want to go ahead and talk to us about that, that'd be really great. Thank you.
Right, making sure I'm not on mute. Kia ora, everyone. Lovely to meet you all. Mel was meant to present this report to you this morning, but she's not well. So I haven't had a chance to talk to her about it, and I've only read it. So I'm on an equal standing with you guys at the moment about where this piece of work is. Please forgive me, week 2. I promise to do better. I just guess if there's any questions anyone's got, I can take them and get back, talk to Mel about them once she's back on deck and get her to respond.
Great, thanks, Amanda. Rebecca, you like to say something? Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Welcome, Amanda. Yeah, that's something to follow, isn't it? Second week and the key person isn't here. Thanks anyway, but could you take a question back to Mel? There's a statement in the report that talks about maintaining land and not having it released into, or just managing it so that it doesn't end up in pine forest, basically. Can you go back to Mel and just ask around the appetite for native forestry, and also what I'm not seeing, although it has been raised before, is more conversation in the space of wetland rehabilitation, wetland construction and carbon sequestering through that. We've got massive tracts of land in the Wairarapa that would be and are completely suitable to be wetlands, because that's what they were. And if you look at some of the other stuff that's coming in the farming sector, which is going to make some of the land unavailable for the farming community, if those people are allowed to develop wetlands and manage wetland populations, then I think that's what we should be looking at doing, and supporting our community in that way. But be very keen to hear back from Mel on that to this group. That's it from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Rebecca. Alex?
Yeah, I can probably answer part of that with regards to sequestration, and that is requiring a change in law from central government with regards to the way land is able to be put into pine, and also the approach of native forest over a 50-year period where it becomes better than for pine. But unfortunately, that is we're at the whim of central government with the loss of land to this. I'm not going to talk about wetlands. It's a very complex area. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Anybody else got any questions?
I want to know who the funny guy is on item 1.1, second from the right, second from the left.
Yeah, not a bad picture, eh? Yeah, no, that was. Can I just make a comment about the visit from the Climate Change Commission in terms of looking at our water race network and some of the feedback we got from the Commission as well, because it was really important. It was an important meeting for them to understand the network, its functions, and its ecosystems that have been built up over 100 years. They were quite fascinated because they hadn't seen a network similar to this before. So it was an insight for them. The feedback we got from them was pretty positive. So yeah, I was pretty impressed actually with their overview, and certainly with their responses to some of our questions to them as well. So thank you.
From my point of view, the water races and the interaction with the students must have been an absolute highlight of the visit from the what's the name of the people from the Commission. So yeah, because it's lovely reading, and certainly I think two groups that are vital to knowing and following up where we're going and what climate change means for the young people today too. Yeah. So pass that on to Mel would be really good. Thank you. Nobody else? So we can now move on to, thank you, Amanda, and welcome. So if we go on to C3, which is the action items report, the last thing on our agenda today. So do we have a mover for that report? I'll move that we receive the report, and Councillor Hayes seconding. Thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Lovely, carried. To Rick, we've talked about the dog pound, which is what was on there. Do we need? I don't know that we need to say anything else, do we?
No.
That's great. Well, in that regard, I think, is there any other questions for officers while they're here? No, in that case, thank you very, very much for our first meeting for 2022. It's been very good. And thank you for your attendance. Have a great day.
And Pam,
Thanks, Pam.
congratulations on your first meeting in the chair. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.